And so here's what we see today. Here's an example. Classic example. You had the girl that was stabbed on the train in Charlotte. And when that happened, you know, he had all these other people on the train also, and no one stood up to help. No one chased down the attacker. No one helped the girl. She died. You know, or the grandmother that gets beat up on the street in New York, and everybody just takes out their cell phone and starts recording it. Like, no one's actually helping. No one's stepping in. We're training our boys just to be safe, but we're not training them to be providers for others or protectors of others, not just for themselves, but their families and their communities as well. So there's a war on boys today. Not too long ago, University of Michigan came out with a study that showed that there's a K-graph where younger boys, let's say senior high boys, are becoming more conservative while senior high girls are becoming more liberal. And what's fascinating to me about that is that I think it's a reaction among boys today. You know, they're always being told that they're the problem of society, they're toxic for being masculine, these kinds of things. And of course, even in the education world, you know, a lot of people have done studies on this. I mean, psychological, sociological studies that have found that young boys are treated like, in schools, like deformed girls. You know, they can't quite as easily just sit quietly all day long. They want to play. They want to take risks. They want to build things. All those intrinsic traits among boys, and our educational system is just basically saying, yeah, don't do that. Become more like a girl. And I think what a lot of young boys are doing, unfortunately, is they're looking to people in our culture and society that are giving a vision of masculinity that really is not what masculinity is. For example, and I don't know Andrew Tate, but take him as an example, massively popular among young boys and even older boys and young men today. But the vision of masculinity, if you step back and you think about what his vision of masculinity is buying flashy cars, it's being surrounded by loose women, take your shirt off, have a cigar, whatever. Nothing against those last things, but you know, I think there's more to masculinity than that. And you know, I was giving a talk this morning to a group of guys, to 50 or 60 guys this morning, and you know, the question came up: how do we raise godly sons? And it's hard today because the culture is just, it's an onslaught against them. There's a war on them. I mean, not only do you have like things like cultural Marxism, things like that, but all the things in our society are telling our young boys that they're just toxic. They're the problem. I think a lot of young boys and, you know, young men are saying, I've had enough of that. I don't want to hear that anymore. This is how the Lord has made me and wired me. He's given me particular, you know, traits and intrinsic natures and propensities, and those are good. You know, those are ingrained. Now, of course, there's bad actors, and I'm not dismissing, you know, those boys and men that are doing bad things, of course. But I think there's something that is good about being a dangerous but good man, being a dangerous but good boy. The idea that you can take risks, you can do hard things, but at the same time, you want to clothe that with character. I do believe it's more important to be godly than gifted. And I think when you have boys that are facing onslaught of like things, cultural Marxism. By the way, if you looked up cultural Marxism on Wikipedia, it says something like a far right extremist conspiracy theory or something like that. But it is certainly true, I believe. Where you have people that are pitting the haves and the have-nots and the oppressors and the oppressed and all that. And not to deny that those things are not there, of course. But when your fundamental identity becomes a victim, and we train our boys to think that way, that they're the oppressor by virtue of the fact that they are a boy or they're a man later on, that's a problem. You know? And you know, the most recent wave of feminism, we love the idea of girls and women being feminine. We love that. I love it when a female, of course my wife, my daughter, but when a female like that is feminine, loves feminine things, there's something attractive about that. You know, and a boy should have those intrinsic traits of wanting to rush into danger, like 9/11 firefighters, or women and children first, the Titanic type men. Those are the kinds of things that we need to be training our boys to do. But there's a war on them. From the outset, they're facing that kind of pressure from the culture just to be more feminine, to just be safe. Just be safe. Don't take risks. Don't do anything that's halfway dangerous. You don't want to get hurt. Even in relationships, over 60% of men under 30 are not married today. You go back to the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and it was just the opposite of those that were married then. And so, what's happening now is young boys are just taking on AI girlfriends, instead of a true relationship. Is a relationship dangerous? Yeah. You could have your heart broken, and that's, there's something to that. But I think, this war on boys today is the feminization, and the problem with the current wave of the feminine movement is that we're seeing it's an intersectionality where the true fundamental identity is in the victimization of women, and that's how they see it. Therefore, the fundamental target, the oppressor, is always the male. And that has an impact. It has an impact on society. It has an impact on families. The breakup of the family has an impact on how boys think of themselves. And so here's what we see today. Here's an example. Classic example. You had the girl that was stabbed on the train in Charlotte. And when that happened, you had all these other people on the train also, and no one stood up to help. No one chased down the attacker. No one helped the girl. She died. Or the grandmother that gets beat up on the street in New York, and everybody just takes out their cell phone and starts recording it. Like, no one's actually helping. No one's stepping in. We're training our boys just to be safe. We're not training them to be providers for others or protectors of others. Not just for themselves, but their families and their communities as well. That's a dangerous place for our country. If we keep on this trajectory, that is a dangerous place for us. So I'm concerned, guys. If I could speak to you dads in particular, man, I think about my boys. They have to do morning, evening chores, goats and chickens and our other animals and stuff they got to do every day. And there's some days that you might say, well, it's raining or it's cold. You don't feel like getting out. Well, there's something that you can make, and you turn that into an adventure. You can turn that in, hey, I'll go with you. Let's do it. It's hard. Let's do it. Like there's something that's kind of fun. That can be fun about the challenge. So, guys, what do you think? Have you seen this kind of attack, this war on boys? Of course, we're seeing that secularization of our culture. So not only education, but in every way, there is. I mean, one study found that over 75% of media reporting between men and women portrayed men and boys as negative. 75% in negative terms. Not too long ago was Valentine's Day, and I went to CVS for a Valentine's Day card, and I was a little late, so not many of them were there. But the ones that were there, the cards that I saw, you know how they portrayed boys and men on those cards, like buffoons, idiots, like negative. It's negative, and eventually that's not a good thing. I think one of the reasons that Trump won the last election is because a lot of guys are like, I'm fed up with this. I'm tired of this. So we need to teach boys to be strong, courageous, all that, and tender and compassionate. The both. I'm a Christian, so I believe Jesus was both tough and tender. He was a lion and a lamb. He combined those traits, and I think that's our model right there. So I mean, there's times where Jesus would overturn tables and make a whip, but there's also the times where he's eating with the hurting and the lonely. He's gathering those that are in pain, that are grieving loss. Man, we need those kinds of boys and men today. And I'm not a perfect example, but those are I guess areas that I need to grow in myself. But certainly when I think about boys and the weight that is against them, social media, a lot of young boys are not even looking for relationships because they don't want to be smeared and rejected all over social media today. And of course, I think social media is offering counterfeit relationships, and so fewer boys have close friends today. They have acquaintances, they've got social media friends, but they don't have true close friends that know them and love them. So what can we do to cultivate those kinds of friendships, cultivate that kind of character in our boys? Well, I do think it takes intentionality, especially with dads. Over 25% of children are raised without dads in the home today, and that's hard. That's hard on everybody. But when you look at the effect that has on the incarceration rates, I think it's like 85% of currently those incarcerated in prison don't have a dad at home. Uh, I, I think it's 280% more likely, or more, 380%, I think, 379, 380% more likely that they become a drug dealer if they don't have a dad. I mean, it's like the stats are off the charts in every area. Most of the homeless, most of those, I mean, you look at every metric, and there's one common denominator, and it's not having a present and engaged dad. So, guys, we need this. We need to hold each other accountable, to encourage one another in this, to admit our own faults in this as well. Maybe we haven't had the perfect dads. I had a great dad, great grandfathers, but maybe some of you didn't. But maybe you can be the change for this generation. So let me know your thoughts on this. If this is something you've seen, this war on boys, war on men even today, if you've seen this as well. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. So thanks so much for your support for us and for our channel. We'll see you on the next video.